Good evening. Welcome to the City Council meeting on February 19, also known as President's Day. Call this meeting to order and ask that you all stand with me for recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll go to City Clerk Beck for the roll call.
Shields.
Here.
Wagner.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Mayor Murphy is absent and Demore.
Present. The next item on our agenda is a public hearing. Tonight, we're going to revisit the Chill Grant application by holding a public hearing to afford citizens an opportunity to offer comments. The City of Petoskey proposes to use Community Development Block Grant funds in the amount of $500,000 for homeowner improvements. All activities upon completion will benefit low to moderate income households. If you wish to offer comment, please provide your name and address for the record. And if you're here with us, push the button on the mic. When the green light appears, you are good to go. Please limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes, and I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. So at this point, we will open the hearing if anyone here would like to offer comment. Seeing no one, I will check with Clerk Beck to see if we have anyone online who may be interested to offer comment.
No hands.
All right. And then City Manager, did we receive any written comments?
No written comments received.
All right. Having said that, we will close the hearing. And I would just note for the record that we will take up the Chill Grant app later in the meeting at agenda item 8C. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. First, we'll take up matters A and B because I see that there's a separate resolution for item C. So I will take that to my colleagues on council to see if anyone has any questions, input, or would like to make a motion.
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A and B.
Is there support?
I'm happy to second here.
All right. So we have a motion by Mr. Wagner, support from Ms. Walker, and now I'll take it to.
I'm sorry. We're not doing C in the consent then? You want to move it down to?
It looks like there's a separate resolution for that. That was what I saw. Am I wrong?
There is, but it's still considered consent.
Okay.
But
You're talking about.
it's in the packet.
Yeah, there's a resolution.
Oh,
I mean, that's how we did it.
On page 22, there's a resolution that specifically addresses the motor pool fund. That's why I separated it out.
okay.
Is that okay? Is that
Yeah,
okay with
that's
colleagues?
up to council how you want to proceed with consent. Always pull things off of consent.
Okay. Are we all right to proceed as
That's
is?
fine, yeah.
Okay, because I thought people might have questions about the motor pool. So, all right, so we have a motion by Mr. Wagner, support from Ms. Walker. Ms. Beck, could you take roll, please?
Wagner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes,
Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Now we'll go to the motor pool purchase authorization. I don't know, City Manager Horn, if you want to speak to that in any way, or that's item 5C.
So you're going to address that now or when we get to new business?
It's under 5C under consent agenda, so I'm just kind of.
So it was consent, but they pulled it off,
Mhm.
which
So
usually
what
they
do
just
we
do
put
it
out
online.
there?
No, they're just gonna go right into it.
Okay. Okay. My apologies.
We're moving along, one
So-
way or the other.
We do have Public Works Director Mike Robbins with us. I'll turn it over to Mike for kind of an overview of that agenda item.
Okay, so we have and I'm gonna give a little bit of a history here because we have $678,000 allocated for motor pool purchases in 2024. If you recall, in late 23, we purchased a plow truck in unison with the one that was scheduled in 2023. So one of the purchases has already been completed. We took bids on the snowplow vehicles and just grouped them together. So for this year, we have the plow truck that was already authorized. It's a year and a half out for that plow truck, just for FYI. We have a police Tahoe, a mower, and a front end loader. And tonight is the police Tahoe and the mower. The loader, I'm still working on the specifications for that. And we still have a 2023 staff vehicle that has not been purchased based on availability. So tonight we have through the My Deal purchase program, we have a four-wheel drive Tahoe police pursuit vehicle, similar to the Tahoes that you see daily around the city. The cost from Berger Chevrolet Fleet Sales out of Grand Rapids, $51,387. We budgeted $65,000 for that vehicle, but there is some upfitting cost that will be applied to that. The second purchase is from the National IPA. It's a purchasing alliance that we're a member of, Toro Groundmaster Out Front Mower, to replace a 2013 mower in kind. So it's unit 180. It's used by Parks and Rec throughout our city. So those are the two purchases that are presented tonight.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions, discussions, motion? Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a question in terms of the 2022 Tahoe pursuit for public safety. 85,000 miles in a 2020 seems like pretty good shape still without not a lot of mileage, but is that pretty common for public safety to want a vehicle with less mileage, like under 100,000? Is that pretty common? Because I know that we just approved this in 2020, so I'm just curious.
I can speak to that.
Thanks.
So this particular vehicle is used by the lieutenants.
Mhm.
So 444 is a vehicle that's virtually 24/7. When lieutenants come in for shift change, they're in that vehicle. It's where their gear is. So typically we see 4 years for vehicles, 5. We push some of the Tahoes out that are not lieutenant vehicles. They're more of a patrol vehicle. So this vehicle isn't even scheduled to be built until mid-July. And by the time we upfit it, it will probably be August, September by the time we see that vehicle. So it's 85,000 plus miles today. And by the time we upfit it, the new one, and get this one out of the fleet, it'll be pushing 100,000, which typically we see things start to happen.
Okay.
It's tough miles. It's city driving and it's transmissions, drivetrain issues. So it's pretty much on track, but probably a year ahead of maybe a patrol vehicle.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
I had a question as well, just on the mower. On the other, you indicated the budget that was allocated. Was there a budget allocated for that too, or is just not to exceed?
There is a budget allocated for that, and I did not include that in the write-up.
Okay,
It's under budget, I will tell you that.
there you go.
Yes.
That's helpful.
My apologies, because usually I put budget allocated, so.
That's okay. That's
Yep.
good enough. Under budget will do it.
Yep.
Anybody else? Oh,
I'll be happy to make a motion.
okay, Ms. Walker.
I'll second the motion.
All right, Mr. Shields. So Ms. Walker has made the motion. Mr. Shields has seconded. And now to you, City Clerk, back for the vote.
Walker,
Yes.
Shields. Wagner, Demore.
Aye. Thank you. Motion carries 4-0. Now moving on to an opportunity for public comment. Once again, I'll just repeat that you have up till 5 minutes for your comments. If you come up, push the button, make sure it's green, give your name and your address. And if you'd like to speak, now's the opportunity. Please come forward. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Al Frost.
hit your button on top of, or on the microphone, it'll turn green, right in the bottom of the,
Yeah.
the base, yep,
Down here.
right there.
There you got it.
Okay, thank you, everybody. What a beautiful day we had. And appreciate the time to talk. This is a pretty simple thing. I've had an Airbnb in this town since 2011. And I had a valid city license in 2022. And Sarah sent me a notice 2 weeks before the start of 2023 to send my payment in for 2023. And I thought that I did send it in. And I had submitted a check stub from my envelope dated back then to the Sarah there. But they've taken my license away. I've already paid $370 in fines. And I contend that this check was never cashed. This is all about a missing envelope. Like I say, she nicely contacted me, sending your money, and I believe I sent it in right at the end of 2022 to cover all of 2023. They didn't notify me until about October of 2023 that they never received the money. And I went down, tried to pay them. They took the check, but then they sent the check back, and I took the check there. We played musical checks for a while. They wouldn't take it, I guess, because of the newly passed ordinance that you delayed rentals for a while. But I said, I've had a rental for 13 years here. This is not newly. This is about a paperwork misplacement. So all I ask now is that I'm able to continue my rentals in 2024. I built this place myself. I started in 2002. Built the whole home. I'm a builder. Did the blocks, the bricks. It's an 8-room, beautiful place, a lot of 4- and 5-star ratings. And all I'm asking is that I be able to continue my rentals in 2024 without having to go to a court and all that, because about a misplaced letter. Like I say, Sarah's done a great job, but she is following the city law. And my license actually did expire, and I have paid $370 in fines because of that. And I thought my license was valid in 2023. I usually have a good memory. I play piano at the senior center every day. I have about 50 songs memorized. I volunteer every day. So all I'm asking is that you all take it into consideration. I should have my Airbnb license back because of the misplaced letter. And that's all I can say for now. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Any
Frost.
questions?
Ms. Walker?
Mayor, Mr. Frost, can you provide your address, please?
417 Carlton, Carleton. I've been over 30 years. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Walker, for the backup on that.
So I'm asking that the council considers that I should be reinstated without having to go to court and all this stuff. So it's really because of a last letter and they didn't receive it and I say I sent it. So that's where we are. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Frost.
Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else?
Excuse me. Good evening, council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Tiffany Lemon, 444 East Mitchell Street. The last time I was here for more local politics, and I just want to talk about something. Go all the way that's on my heart right now. As a local resident, I urge you to follow the lead of San Francisco, St. Louis, Oakland, Richmond, Detroit, Atlanta, and other local governments that have already passed resolutions urging the U.S. government to support an immediate and complete ceasefire in Gaza. Such resolutions can usefully include some of those passed already have support for humanitarian aid, for freeing hostages, for an end to anti-Semitic, anti-Palestinian, anti-Islamophobic, and all xenophobic rhetoric and attacks. Passing a resolution is a moment's work that costs no local resources. Our local and state governments are supposed to represent us at Congress. A representative in Congress represents 650,000 people, an impossible task. Many local elected officials in the United States take an oath promising to support U.S. Constitution, representing constituents to higher levels of government is part of that. I've reached out to my Congress and their representatives, and I've got a lot of dead air. Cities, towns, countries routinely and properly send petitions to Congress for all kinds of requests. This is allowed under Clause 3, Section 819 of the Rules of the House of Representatives. This clause is routinely used to accept petitions from cities and memorials from all states all across the U.S. The same is established in the Jefferson Manual, the rule book for the House, originally written by Thomas Jefferson for the Senate. In 1967, a court in California ruled Farley v. Healy in favor of citizens' rights to place a referendum on the ballot opposing the Vietnam War. As representatives of local communities, boards of supervisors, and city councils have traditionally made declarations of policy on matters of concerns to the community, whether or not they had the power to effectuate such declarations by binding legislation. Indeed, one of the purposes of local government is to represent its citizens before Congress, legislature, and administrative agencies in matters over which the local government has no power. Even matters of foreign policies. It's not uncommon for local legislative bodies to make their positions known. Anti-abolitionists passed local resolutions against U.S. policies on slavery. The anti-apartheid and South Africa movement did the same, as did the nuclear freeze movement, the movement against the Patriot, and the movement for the favor of Kyoto Protocol on climate change. Now is another time when action is needed. We're really safe and privileged to be here in Petoskey. The people in Gaza deserve to be safe. When I look at the map of Gaza and I think about the people going south, I just imagine Michigan being bombed from the north to the south, and how we'd all just be stuck in Detroit. And I drove down Mitchell Street the other day and I was like, wow, what beautiful houses. I'm so glad I don't have to worry about any of those being bombed. And that's my privilege. And I want to stand in the right side of history. And I'm a yoga teacher. I stand for peace. And I want people in South Gaza to feel safe, to be safe. They are being denied basic human rights. I think we need to understand that the world is a different place now than when I was a kid. Kids are watching what's happening on Gaza in real time on social media. I don't have kids, but I worry. No longer are these violent acts being hidden behind the eloquent words of the anchor person on the evening news. These atrocities are the bedtime stories of nightmares. I will always work and speak for justice, and I hope you can stand with me on a resolution for a ceasefire. I know it's a big ask, but this one's you for this song. There's a 25-year-old girl. If you Google her, Bisan, her Instagram is WizardBizon1. She's been covering all of this, and you can see it in real time, in real life, from a 20-year-old girl. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the conversation the other day.
Thank you, Ms. Leno. And did we get your address? I think we've had it before. We're good. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Hello, thank you for this space and time. My name is Hillary Lake, and I am Interfaith Community Minister and the chair of the Interfaith Common Ground Group in Petoskey. And I live at 1076 Shire, Shire Avenue in Petoskey. I came here because Tiffany invited me to come and asked me to support this resolution. And also because I do also have very deep feelings about what's happening in Gaza. And I read and signed the petition that Tiffany read. And it was sent to 7 of our national representatives, including Joe Biden as well. And so if any of you are interested, we can certainly send that your way. And I know at least one of you has access to that as well. And so this is a resolution that could be passed. It could be drafted. Of course, there's effort that it takes to do that. And it would help our community to stand out as a community that stands for peace. And as the local representative for this interfaith group, while I have not brought this to the group yet for us to agree upon, we have had some challenging and valuable conversations with individuals in that group, including, I'm not going to mention names, but someone who's very involved and a leader in our Jewish community as well. And just saying, I think it's important for us to acknowledge that this is for people of all backgrounds in Gaza, not just the Palestinians, not just the Israelis, but that this would be against anti-Semitism and anti-Islamophobia. It would be against xenophobia and against harm to anyone. And I can't see any reason why we wouldn't stand for that as a community and why we wouldn't intend to support peace wherever there is harm that is happening in the world. So thank you for your time and your care.
Thank you, Ms. Lake. Is there anyone else? Yes.
It's already going. August Surjak, also resident at 1070. There we go. Nice. August Surjak at 1076 Shire Avenue as well. Here in support of the crafting of a resolution in support of a ceasefire in the humane peace process in the so-called Holy Lands, which are, pretty atrociously filled with the wrong kinds of holes at the moment. And having traveled to Israel and Palestine in humanitarian art activism work in 2014, when there was another onslaught of violence in Gaza unfolding, then I can speak to the level of dire circumstance that the Palestinians live in and the culture of fear that grips Israeli citizens as well as anyone in that area. And I think it can only put us on the healing side of history, as was kind of said earlier, to voice our discontent with the violence unfolding there, and that there's a lot that just, if diplomatic process for peace is to be able to unfold, we need to at least put the fire out and call for what we can. And I'm hoping that the city council here would be willing to support something in that direction and feel like it doesn't cost anything and would be a, just voice of support for honest peace in the region. And so I hope that can come forward, and I'd be, really grateful. So that's my thought on that. And incidentally, the chill grant seems great. So why not? Amidst home renovations right now. So it feels like it'd be a good thing for affordable housing and another layer of peace in our community. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Very briefly, I've been renting for 13 years. There's never once been any kind of trouble, reports, noise, because I actually live in the house. I have my home. I built an 8-room place right on the back. It's right on my property, and there's an alley there, a garage, very shielded. So as far as some Airbnbs being in trouble, there's never been any problem with my place at all. Also, I know the council talks about the number of Airbnb of short-term rentals in this town. And I was in the business for 30 years on Lake Charlevoix before I came over here. And what's happening, and there are many Airbnbs in the area, and I actually have lowered my prices year after year. And as the prices come down, if you're down to $99 a night, you're gonna get all the Detroit people up here and all that. What's nice about Petoskey is that we've kept nice, wonderful clientele. We kept the price and it's fair to the homeowners who've been here a long time. So all I can say is I agree with don't have 75 rentals in town because it is hard on most people. They don't have a place to park the cars. Like at my place, I have plenty of room. It's very confusing and all that. So once again, thank you for your time. Everybody have a great evening. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Frost. Not seeing anyone else in the audience here. Is there anyone online, Ms. Beck, that would like to speak?
No.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is city manager updates. City Manager Horn.
Thank you. Just a few things to highlight for you this evening and a couple of reminders as well. This is a heavier week this week for public meetings. We have our meeting tonight. Downtown Management Board has their monthly meeting tomorrow here in this building at 6 o'clock. On their agenda tomorrow, they're going to discuss and approve or consider approval of the design for the Seville lot renovation. They will also be considering the 2024 dining deck resolution on for their review and recommendation back to City Council. And then have their normal monthly committee reports as well. Planning Commission follows the next evening on Wednesday this week, February 21st at 6 o'clock. On their agenda this week, we'll have a public hearing on the EV charging ordinance. We will also review Resort Township's master plan and provide any necessary review or feedback back to them for that process. As part of RRC requirements, they will be kind of running through their annual report, which gets submitted to RRC, Redevelopment Ready Communities, and then also looking at the Livable Petoskey master plan. Looking at action items that have been addressed in 2023 for that update that will go back to Redevelopment Ready Communities. And then just a couple of highlights. We shared this last meeting, but I wanted to again let voters know that we're actually in our, third day now of early voting. Started Saturday. That goes through February 25th, which is Sunday. So that facility, the VFW Post 2051 on Conway Road in Harbor Springs, is available for early voting. This is for the February 27th presidential primary. Again, that would be open from 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. daily during that period of time until February 25. And then just to remind folks about this Friday, this was pushed a couple of weeks back, so that this is a go this Friday, February 23rd, the annual State of the Community that the Petoskey Chamber hosts. This will be hosted again at the Crooked Tree Arts Center. Program starting at 1:30 p.m. on Friday, the 23rd, where many communities will participate by presenting kind of a review of what went on in 2023. And there's several presenters that will be presenting during that format as well. So that's quickly my update. Happy to take any questions.
Any of my colleagues have questions? Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Thanks, Shane, for the update and report. Can you tell me if the Downtown Management Board will be announcing replacement of the downtown director?
Yeah, there's nothing scheduled. There's been, and I don't know, Becky, if this has actually been extended, an offer has been extended or, yeah. Okay, so there is a process going on right now. There's nothing necessarily to I guess to report on that, but an offer has been extended. We'll kind of see where that goes, but that is in process.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Shields.
Manager Horn, I had a question, actually not related, but going back to the check register, how often do we get reports about from Plunkett Cooney or reports about the activities of our city attorney work? Is that something that is annual, quarterly? I can't remember. I haven't seen one in a while and had that question.
Are you speaking like on billing purposes or just?
Well, yeah, I haven't asked like, where 9,000 went to, and because I know that we occasionally get reports. And so I don't ask that question in the future. I knew approximately when to expect how that money was being spent. Is that something to expect?
I don't know what we've done here in the past, like from a report standpoint. We do get monthly bills from them based on what they're working on. For instance, for this month, the breakdown was really looking at fees for FOIA that they're reviewing for us. We've had a number of FOIA requests that we correspond back and forth with legal. Short-term rental issues, that was a heavy billable item this month. Business licenses, we had a cell tower contract, my evaluation, and then zoning ordinance reviews were the big thing that were picked out on this monthly billing for Plunkett Cooney. But if there's something that you normally receive from them on just an overview or review process, certainly I'm interested in hearing about that. I wasn't aware of that, I guess.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like that isn't something we've received in the past. I thought and I brought the question before that was something that this might have been my first year here, but I think hearing that summary right there was helpful.
Yeah, certainly we get invoiced every month, and it just depends on what topics they're working on for us, or if they've had any interactions with staff or with city council. Obviously, those are billable hours that go against our budget. So it just depends on from a criminal matter standpoint, if they have a number of cases in the district court that they're working on for us. Or if it's just general ordinance things that they're considering for us. So that's what they worked on this month. Certainly I can give kind of a broad overview like this on a monthly basis, if that's helpful, just so are aware of the billings.
I don't know if a monthly basis is necessary. Me personally, I'm okay just occasionally asking as well.
Sure.
But if any other council members have opinion.
Okay.
I don't know if it's helpful, but what I did when I saw that was I shot an email to Audrey Plath and to ask her specifically what those components were. So I don't know if that's a practice that others might be interested in, but it was helpful to me and basically outlined all the items. That's why I was nudging my phone your way because it's on my phone.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Then City Manager Horn, I also had a question for you just regarding the 2024 dining deck resolution review and recommendation. Is that like talking about whether or not we're going to continue, or how many numbers, or how they're going to be set up, or what's kind of the scope of that, if you know?
Yeah, I mean, we would like to be moving in a direction where we have a standardized process. I know Mike and myself and who else staff-wise have been in those discussions. Becky has been in those. We've had Beckett and Rader involved. We'd like to get to a point where we have a standardized system that instead of, when we did this in 2020, it was in response to COVID. We were trying to allow businesses, restaurants to provide continued service in a safe manner, which really evolved into the outdoor dining decks. It's been well received, and I think folks enjoyed the opportunity to have them. We as a city realize and know that there's a standard of excellence that we want to maintain here in the city, and potentially treated plywood decks that there's no rhyme or reason to how they're constructed. And we may have some concerns and issues with how their aesthetics and how they're constructed and the safety of them.
potentially we want to standardize that. And so we've been working on that. It's a fairly significant undertaking amongst all of our other things that we're working on. So we weren't able to, in our mind, get to a point where we felt comfortable, because this is going to be a significant cost to whoever wants to participate, because it'll be very well done, very well put together, and it'll be consistent. It'll be standardized. So there'll be no, with one looking one way, the other one looking different. It'll be when you have a dining deck, this is the expectation you're going to have to meet. So we're not there yet. And so to continue to allow this opportunity, we would like to do this again by resolution to allow them for 2024. So this would be on for discussion of the Downtown Management Board, which would eventually come before City Council as well. So.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? Pretty good? Okay. We'll move on to new business. First item on the agenda, adoption of a proposed resolution that would authorize contracting with Select Electric Company Petoskey, the amount of $84,390 for the Ingalls Pump Station generator installation. I'll take it to City Manager Florence.
And I'm going to turn it over to Mike, since he's graciously joined us and provided us with a little bit of time. I'll turn it over to Mike to provide that overview.
I figured that you might.
Thank you.
So just gonna back up in time. We talked about this project. It's actually a 2023 project. We purchased the generator, which still has not arrived. It was over a year lead time. So we did a two-phase approach. So this project, council, we introduced it through the CIP in 2023, and then we purchased the generator for $87,979 in February 20th meeting. So it's a year, 1 day short. So what we've been working on is the placement of the generator at the Ingalls Pump Station. The Ingalls Pump Station, as a reminder, is down by the Eagles. It's Water Street and Ingalls Avenue. And it's right on the Bayfront West Park, if you will. It's pretty well concealed. We did some landscaping last year. So what we're going to do is we had Hubbell, Roth and Clark design the placement of the generator so we could get the conductors into the building. We have to install a automatic transfer switch. We have to relocate some things inside. So Hubbell, Roth and Clark set up the contract and the bid specs. Those were made available January 8th of this year. We sent them out to 3 area contractors, and we received 2 bids on February 7th. The bids, when we did open the bids, we had Select Electric at $84,390, and J Rank out of Mount Pleasant was at $216,333. Took us by surprise a little bit. There was another firm in the area that didn't bid it. Contacted them and they were just too busy to take on this project. We contacted J Rank and asked about their bid. First thing I thought was they included the generator. Well, we have already purchased the generator. That was not the case. They're out of Mount Pleasant. They're a big operation. They do all the work by prevailing wage. They have bulk cost that they explained to me, but they didn't bid it real aggressively. We did invite them. They were one of the 3 area firms because they are an outfit that does this type of work. They appreciated that, but this is the price they submitted. So that basically was just their way of saying they'll do it, but at a cost. We did reach out to Select Electric Company, which is a local company in Petoskey. They have done work for us. They actually installed our EV charging stations through the bid process a couple of years ago. Very capable of the work. We did interview them. We talked with the consultant. Our city engineer was involved in that discussion. We're very comfortable with the price. The engineering estimate, we did break that down just so we could get a feel for what that bid should. We always do that. prior to bidding. And the engineer's estimate's $110,000. with contingencies. So it is a lower bid, but it's conservative from the contractor. He's very comfortable with it. He actually, through the bidding process, asked enough questions that we sent out an addendum to our bid because he caught a couple things in the well house that needed to be changed out. So he did do his homework. He did 2 on-site visits and walked through the facility with us. So those are the explanation of the 2 bids. I made a note in this agenda memo that there are additional costs that are associated with this bid package. We're going to do the concrete work around the facility. We're going to remove the sidewalk so that it will be put back in kind with our concrete contractor that council approved earlier this year. There's site preparation, restorations, landscaping, building service upgrades. And what I mean by that is there's a new gas service that will be installed by DTE. So that will be an expense, along with repairs to the building as all of these modifications are being installed. There'll be holes that'll be cut. There'll be things that we'll have to repair. We're going to repaint the building. We're going to look at it's a very small building, but the roof system needs attention, and the door and entry door needs to be replaced. So when we added all of this up, it's at about an additional $81,000 with some contingencies within that number. And we're going to manage that through our city staff, through existing contracts. And I said quote filings because there's just some things we will go out and get quotes on, and in-house personnel. So we have our line crew, and we even have some work for the street department to partake in that project. So that's the project overall. Take any questions.
Does anybody? Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mike Roberts, for the very detailed information about those expenses. So if we had budgeted in the 2023 annual budget, $325,000, the grand total with the generator, standard electrics or select electrics, proposed installation, and then the 81,000, we come to about a little short of 254,000. So of the 325 that you had allocated, and this is just specifically that allocation was for the Ingalls Pump Station, so within budget.
That is correct. And I did the same math and added a 15% contingency because we're not done yet. So with that $38,000 based off of your number will be about $291 all in cost. I don't expect the contingency. We're far enough down the road, but the original $325,000 was really a conservative number to make sure we kept it within the budget.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ms. Walker, for asking my question.
I did the math.
Anybody else? Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve contracting with Select Electric Company for $84,390.
Second motion there.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Wagner, support from Ms. Walker. I will take it to Ms. Beck for the roll call vote.
Wagner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Moving on to item B, it's my understanding, City Manager Horn, that we're going to remove this from the agenda for now for additional consideration. Would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, I don't know that I need to go into detail. It's just not quite ready yet for your consideration. So I would respectfully ask to pull this off of your agenda this evening.
Do you need a motion?
Please.
Okay.
So moved.
Mr. Shields,
I'll be happy to second the motion.
Ms. Walker, we have a motion from Mr. Shields, supported by Ms. Walker to remove this from the agenda for this evening. Taking it to Ms. Beck for a vote, please.
Shields.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye. On a 4-0 vote, that motion to adjourn or table it passes. All right, next item on the agenda, item 8C, adoption of a proposed resolution that would authorize the city manager to submit the MISHDA CDBG Chill grant application for homeowner improvements. This is the subject of the public hearing that we had at the outset. City Manager Horn.
Thank you. You may be asking yourself, we've done this, right? So my apologies. I had thought that the public hearing would be part of something we would need to do before we were awarded the grant and before we executed the grant agreement. However, the public hearing needs to take place once we submit the application. So I do apologize for that. That was my oversight. So I appreciate your grace in working with me to facilitate this public hearing. This would qualify or meet the requirements of the grant to proceed. As the mayor mentioned, this is a grant for homeowner improvement projects, and this is within your packet are the details of how you qualify, eligible incomes and eligible households. This is really focused on those that are below 80% area median income, really to address any sort of wellness and safety, code related issues that folks are struggling with from a maintenance standpoint. So this would help us to, again, walk alongside property owners that need some assistance in bringing their properties up to meet the property International Property Maintenance Code and other sort of code related concerns.
Does anybody have anything, comments, discussion? Ms. Walker?
Thank you. I do have a comment. I noticed that Emmett County had also approved a similar chill grant with same specification, same amount of money, and that will be utilized in the greater Emmett County area. So I think there's a lot of synergy there, and I was very proud to see that both you and the county had applied for this grant, because I know that these state grants are not the easiest and can be very thick. So I just really appreciate that. And I see a plethora of opportunities. I could almost go neighborhood by neighborhood within my ward and be like, oh, I bet you this person might qualify. So I look forward to the amount of outreach that will happen to so people are made aware of those opportunities. And also it's specifically for single family homes and homeowner occupied. So I could think of many opportunities that might exist in our Petoskey. So thank you so much, Shane, for that.
Thank you.
So I fully support this grant, but I'm still, here's a little Groundhog Day moment, struggling with this language in the resolution. And I discussed this with Shane, because apparently we think at least that MIJDA requires that at least 51% language in there, which doesn't make sense, because the grant language itself says that all households must meet those guidelines. So I don't know if you want to address this, but Shane has reached out, City Manager Horny has reached out to MIJDA to see if they want that in there or they don't. And whatever they say is what will be fine with me.
Their grant guidance materials, they use that specific language as a requirement to show up in a resolution. They use that in a lot of their, for instance, the City Park Grill Rental Rehab Grant, it's a CDBG MIJDA grant. They require the same language, and I have asked the question. Obviously, today was a holiday for state folks and many people. So they didn't answer my question today, but certainly if they allow us to remove that, I would certainly do that based on your input. I just didn't want to have to come back again if we take it out, and we needed to have it in there. So I tried to incorporate both things, because I also put in there pursuant to MIJDA chill guidelines, as we discussed at our last meeting as well. But
yeah, I just wanted clarity on the record that I'd ask about it. There'll be follow-up. So if the 51% stays, you'll know, and if it disappears, you'll know also. So Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I had another question. I was wondering if it had been determined who the third party would be, whether it would be the Northern Michigan Community Action Agency or the Northern Home CDC. I think would be the two qualifying.
Yeah, I need to do a quick RFP. I did reach out to just lost the name, Northern Community. Yeah, thank you. And they mentioned they do not currently have the bandwidth to do that and do, because I think they're engaged with the county. So we will need to look another direction. They certainly appreciated me reaching out and want to keep those lines of communication open, but they just didn't feel like they could be a good partner for us right now, just based on their workload. So we'll certainly look at other options, and I'll take your guidance on where that RFP should go and get that in front of folks.
Thank you.
Anybody else ready for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the submittal of the authorization resolution for the Chill Grant Program.
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Shields, support by Mr. Wagner. I'll take it to the city clerk for a roll call vote.
Shields.
Yes.
Wagner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye. Motion passes on a 4-0 vote. Moving on to the next item on our agenda, 8D, adoption of a proposed resolution that would authorize the city manager to execute the Housing Readiness Grant Agreement with MSHDA. City Manager Horn.
Thank you. So we submitted an LOI, a letter of intent, back before the holidays. We were authorized to submit a formal application, which we were approved for. So we were awarded the $50,000 grant. Again, this is through MSHDA's Housing Readiness Incentive. This is really to look at our current zoning and what are those potential barriers that we currently have. Our zoning was put together, what was back in the 70s, I believe. So obviously things have changed on many different levels since then. So we're trying to promote a community that provides for affordable workforce, attainable, whatever word you would like to throw in there, housing opportunities. So sometimes our own ordinances get in the way of that. So how can we take a fresh look at what we currently have in place from an ordinance standpoint? It's one thing if we say we want to have affordable housing opportunities, but if our zoning runs in conflict to that, that's a problem. So this grant allows us to really take a step back, look at our ordinances from a housing standpoint. What are those things? It could be smaller lot lines or smaller lots. There could be, reduced parking requirements. It could be a lot of different things that I think the way it sits right now, we can't support those type of initiatives. And so the state has come up with a kind of a toolkit, if you will, to provide for affordable housing guidelines, if you will, from a zoning standpoint. So in the resolution, in the grant agreement, are some bullet items that are from that guidance, from feedback that John Michelangeli has received. I did confirm with MSHDA, my MSHDA contact, because there was some discussion about while we want to do these things, we also want to make sure that we maintain local control. We don't want to just give up the opportunity from someone in Lansing to dictate what we're doing here in Petoskey. I certainly agree with that, appreciate that. The feedback I received, and I believe I shared out with all of you, was we may not be able to hit all these bullet points, or we may do it in a different way, and that's fine. They want us to keep local control. We just need to, at the end of the grant, kind of detail if we merged off, if we didn't address certain things, we just need to document that in the follow-up and the closure of the grant itself. But certainly they want to support us as locals. They don't want to come in and tell us what needs to happen or how our community should look to from someone in Lansing. So I'll certainly address or try to address any of your questions or concerns. But that's the grant overall. This is something that we've wanted to accomplish anyway. And my thought process was, if we can get the funds to do it, without using our own general fund dollars, certainly that's something that I was supportive of, and hopefully you will be as well.
Mr. Shields.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. Thank you, Manager Horn. This is wonderful. I think this is something that is going to help give us a lot of momentum and get the ball rolling on a lot of these things that we've been talking about for a while. So that was great. And as you mentioned, the housing demand today is much different than it was in 1970. One statistic I have here is that today less than 30% of households are married with one or more kids. In 1970, that was 70%. So we have many different types of households that have many different kinds of housing needs today. And we don't currently have the flexibility in our housing market, our housing inventory today. And so I think it is on us to remove the barriers so that that inventory can diversify. So super excited about this. I do have questions about just the process. And when you mentioned it saving us general fund monies, is that going to look like a contractor that would speed this work? Because I know the planning commission was going to take on a lot of this. So does that take it out of the planning commission's hands, and then whoever's leading this will provide the planning commission with documents or resolutions, ordinances that are more than half baked, so they can that speed up the process? So what is how does it speed up the process?
Yeah, so my thought, I guess, and I'll certainly take your feedback. This you are correct. This is something that Planning Commission was going to dive into. I think this is a heavier lift than appointed officials kind of doing this on a once a month effort. This with a consultant, this is likely a 10-month process. So just imagine if we didn't have a consultant kind of leading this effort, that it would be a much longer process, and it's something that we need to get done soon, as we all know. So my thought was we need to engage with a consultant. Obviously, we have a planning consultant, John Michelangeli. He's very familiar with our zoning ordinances. He's familiar with our planning commission. I personally think that would be a good opportunity for him to continue to guide that effort going forward. But certainly if there's a desire to see other consultants that are out there, we can certainly do a request for proposals and get that back in front of council. That will delay things slightly, but that's not insurmountable. I know that Planning Commission is itching to start the process. Within the process itself are a lot of intentional community meetings, open houses type setup, where there'll be charrettes that will be displayed, whether it's here or whether we get out in the community to get feedback. But this process will involve a lot of public engagement. Because that's kind of what we need to be able to craft changes to our current structure. So there'll be a lot of public meeting work, but there'll also be a lot of intentional town hall discussions, community meetings, whether they're here or out in the community or a combination of the two. But it'll be very intentional from a community engagement standpoint.
I'll follow up on that because I had a constituent question about sort of the same question that Mr. Shields asked, but it was a little bit more focused, saying, will this, in a sense, follow the regular course? In other words, planning commission involvement, public comment, which you've already mentioned. And it's my understanding that there've already been some public discussion at the planning commission about public outreach sessions being contemplated, that sort of thing, and then ultimately city council. So just confirming on the record for that constituent question that that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Walker?
So because now this is clearly within the office of Shane's role, it doesn't have to go before city council for approval. But because John is the contracted planner for the city of Petoskey and as the representative from Beckett and Rader, and he's being chosen as the one to execute this grant. Will it be something similar to like billable hours that an attorney uses that he will address, like he will invoice the city based on when he actually is working on this project with billable hours, as opposed to like when he's working with the planning commission on those kind of contracted obligations?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. He will be tracking this project with its own project number. So he'll bill directly to this project when he's working on this specific project versus we do have an hourly rate for him. But he'll focus his effort when his time is spent on this grant project. He'll be referring to that project number specifically.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Shields.
No.
Oh, Mr. Wagner.
My quick observation comment that I've stated before after coming back from the housing summit in Traverse City and having been at the one 2 years prior, Mishta and Lansing was helpless basically in helping rural Michigan. And I've repeated to many people, I had no clue our 10-county area is only 300,000 people. And it's tough for us to get a voice in Lansing. And thanks to our chamber, the Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance, and others who've represented our big rural area in Lansing, changes are actually happening. It's just encouraging as heck. So that's great news for us.
Mr. Shields.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're following up on Mr. Moore's comments there about the process and going through the normal process. I guess out of just trying to understand it more and how to go through these things in 10 months, it will be special planning commission meetings to address some of these. Will planning commission meetings be longer? Well, there is the idea, and it's okay if we're still trying to figure this out how, but would be the idea that planning commission members don't have to talk through as many details in the meeting because they're being presented with a well-researched option to consider. Does that make any sense? My concern is that this is ambitious, and I want us to achieve that ambitious goal. And I'm concerned that normal processes are great, but maybe we need to look at that process and see how we can put the gas pedal down. That's not my desire.
No, that's a great input. I believe, and I don't know who those members are. I don't remember who the members are, but I believe Planning Commission has selected, I believe, 3 members to form a subcommittee. I believe, and I really want to get the mayor's input when he's back, but I believe they would like to see a couple council members join their subcommittee to kind of do some of the work to get it to a point where, as you mentioned, this would be likely meetings during the day where things could be kind of worked on, get it to a point where it's in a rough format, but we've spent some time to kind of craft it through a certain direction, then get it to the full planning commission, get it to the public, eventually get it to city council where we can kind of do some of this work with a subcommittee format, kind of similar to what we did with the short-term rentals stuff, ordinance to kind of help facilitate that, maybe moving a little quicker.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to those planning commission members that are digging in.
Yeah.
And then I would just like to follow up on the local control issue, because I was the one that raised that to make sure, not to give myself credit, but just so everybody's clear. And I want to make sure that I believe that response from Mishta, was provided to our planner and planning commission members as well. So everybody's on the same page.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and then along those lines, just because we do deal with so many things, I would ask that that email and Mishna's response be made a part of the record. So everybody's clear if there's any questions at any time that this is a matter of local control. Anybody else? Oh, wait, I see we have a hand up. I apologize.
Ryan had something.
But so I want to make a motion, and I think after we motion and second, then we should take public comment. Is that?
Yeah, right. Sure.
Okay, so I want to make a motion to authorize city manager to execute the housing readiness grant agreement with Mishta.
I'll second the motion, Mayor.
All right. Ms. Walker, we have a motion for Mr. Wagner, support for Ms. Walker, but we do have a constituent, it appears online, that would like to offer comment.
Yes, hello, this is Allison Patton.
Allison, Ms. Patton, could you give your address as well for the record, please? Thank you.
Yeah. 602 East Lake Street.
Thank you.
All right, is the audio working okay for?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. So I've paid attention to the details on this, and I have to say, though, that even notwithstanding the assurance from Mishta that this is still within local control, there are still some concerns that I have about this. To begin with, we've got this list of bullet pointed items that represent really very substantial changes. We've got allowing smaller lots, allowing for ADUs as a quote, use by right, unquote, which would basically mean no restrictions, allowing not just duplexes, but even triple and quad units in what are now single family neighborhoods, allowing for taller structures, language about being more flexible with PDUs. And one might think from that list that this is a city that has done nothing in recent years to try to encourage increasing affordable housing, but we have. It's not the case that nothing's been done since the 1970s. In fact, just recently, council was very vigilant and successful in requiring that new housing development to meet affordability factors. And also, in my research shows that in just the last 3 years, the Planning Commission has spent a lot of time and effort to address these very same areas. We have ordinance number 783 adopted in December of 2021 that made changes pertaining to building heights and setbacks. We had ordinance 784 adopted in February of 2022, which made many changes in the residential zoning provisions pertaining to RM1 and RM2, including lot size and building heights. And then most recently, we had ordinance number 787 adopted in June of 2022, which made additional residential zoning provisions to allow for the ADUs subject to certain restrictions. So I have a question here in my own mind as to where did this list of bullet point items come from? It appears to be a very specific agenda. And I just wonder who came up with this list? And was this list part of the city's own application for the grant money? And if it was, whose idea was that? I also want to point out that even though the resolution that council has been given says in the third paragraph that revisions to the zoning ordinance may include review and application of yada, yada, the grant agreement itself that the resolution is asking you to authorize the city manager to sign says that these items will include, okay, that the review and application will include the bullet listed items. So I understand it's not compelling the city to do anything, but I do have this underlying fear that accepting this grant money, that it's going to parlay itself into a situation where it becomes a fait accompli, where certain people are going to argue later, hey, we took this money from Mishta. So, shouldn't we be making some of these changes, like such as in ADUs that we just dealt with in 2022, or somebody arguing that, oh, hey, if we don't adopt any of these bullet point items, maybe we're going to have to pay the money back. So I really just have to question why we have to accept this money at all. And especially when the money goes to this private entity, Beckett and Rader, they don't make policy for the city. Under the city charter, policy is to be made by council, an elected body. We also have a planning commission adopted under PA 33 that council has empowered. And I am somewhat relieved to hear that in the comments just made that the planning commission is going to be part of this, because nothing along those lines was said in the resolution. But I do wonder why does this why is this money needed to go to this private entity? And then what happens if Beckett and Rader says, oh, hey, you know what, this 50,000, it wasn't enough money for us to finish the job. And so if you still want some kind of report from us, we're going to need more money. And
Ms. Patton, I'm only interrupting you respectfully to let you know that you have 10 seconds left.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I just say, I would urge council to give this some further thought. And in particular, and maybe even consider getting a legal opinion on the discrepancy between the resolution saying may and then the grant agreement itself saying will, because that might be something that will come back to haunt later. I appreciate an opportunity to address council. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patton. Do we have anyone else online, Sarah? We good? Okay. All right. We have a motion from Mr. Wagner with support from Ms. Walker. Ms. Beck, I go to you for the vote, please.
Wagner.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Demore.
Aye. Motion carries on a 4-0 vote. The next item on our agenda are city council comments. Who would like to go first? Mr. Shields wants to go first.
Thanks, Mr. Moore. Didn't have anything planned, although I just wanted to quickly say, Mr. Frost, thanks for coming, and I'm going to follow up with city staff. I have some questions. And for the three people that spoke on the request for a resolution, I thank you for coming and doing that. I've contacted my elected officials at the federal level, and this is a good provoking thought about the power of resolutions at the local level. So I want to thank you for coming forward today.
Mr. Wagner?
No comment.
All right. Ms. Walker?
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to comment that the Winter Festival this weekend in downtown Petoskey and at the Winter Sports Park was delightful. I did get to attend one event because I needed a little cathartic singing, so I got to go to City Park Grill on Friday night and sing karaoke a little bit. I needed that artistic outlet, but was beautiful to see the ice sculptures in downtown Petoskey. So kudos to that, and I look forward to our deep dive on this zoning reform. I know that a lot of the bullet points that we covered here in this as part of this grant came from the zoning reform toolkit almost verbatim. And those of you that elected officials and also appointed people from the commission, from the planning commission, attended that housing conference in 2022 and 2023. And this has been something that we wanted to get in motion for a long time, and oftentimes we felt like sometimes the planning commission was a little bit of an obstacle to making those things happen, but it is absolutely within our purview as elected officials and the governing public policy body, as we were told by our attorney several years ago when we had that meeting, that, you know, this is within the auspice of city council to help move and expedite zoning changes to increase affordability and access to have more infill development and affordable housing for all that are involved in our community. So thank you so much for that.
Just very briefly, a very random but well-deserved shout out to all public safety and first responders. There's been a lot in the national news lately about loss of life, people going into burning buildings, et cetera. So I just want to give a thanks locally and beyond to those who serve each and every one of us in our most desperate times of need. So just a thank you. But anything else? All right. Having no further business to come before the city council, this